Welcome back to the Tiki Guy podcast. Smash that subscribe button. I mean, hit it like it owes you money. Because every time somebody subscribes, man, it keeps the rum flowing. Hey, and this bar stocked up. I'm the Tiki Guy, and if you don't know me yet, pour something cold and light something up. Because by the end of this, you're going to wish you lived next door. This week, we're getting into golf, sports, and one thing my lawyer told me not to mention. Let's roll. All right, but first things first, Tiki Guy. Got to be Tiki Guy. So we got to have a little cold one. Tiki bar is just not the same without a cold one. Let's talk a little bit about golf carts. You know, I love golf carts, man. I mean, I got a golf cart. My license plate is Tiki Guy, of course. But, you know, carts they made men soft. You know, when I was a little kid playing golf, my dad would, you know, we walked. I mean, we walked. I'd hop on the back of his pull cart and just hold on and let him drag me. But I said, Dad, why don't we get one of those riding carts? And this time, I mean, it was not very popular to have a golf cart. I mean, there would be 5 or 10 maybe at a golf course. And I said, can we get one of those someday? He goes, no, those guys are they're rich. They're rich, man. They get those things. They don't get any exercise either. I'm like, I kind of like it, man. I think it'd be pretty sweet to be cruising around in one of those bad boys. Anyway, but you know, the best part about having a golf cart is you got a place to sit things. Like you can set your drinks. Like I don't really want to participate in any sports that you can't have a beer in your hand. You know, can you imagine playing tennis, you know, and having a beer and you're walking like backhand, you know, you can't do that. You know, basketball, you imagine that? You're holding your hand, you got your beer, you dribble one hand, then you got to shoot with one hand. I mean, that just doesn't work. And so it doesn't work for me because I'm the Tiki Guy and I like convenience. So a golf cart makes a lot of sense. You can carry your cigars, you know, your little humidor, your cooler, all the accessory stuff that you want, you know, and that's a reason to have a golf cart, so you can carry all your stuff. What do you think, Mikey? Am I out in left field or what?
I love it.
All right. I love agreement, man. Love it. All right, so let's talk a little bit about sports. You know, back in the day, you know, people would play hurt. You know, they didn't worry about it. They get hurt, they keep going. You know, guy gets trampled, he's got a compound fracture, you know, fib hanging out and everything. They go, tape him up. You know, actually in high school, I was a trainer, athletic trainer. I learned some good taping techniques. And I could make that, it would be like a cast. You know, I'd probably use, 10 rolls of tape, but let me tell you, they weren't bending that leg. If that ankle was sprained, it was like a cast on that thing. So, Smoke Bro. You want to talk about Smoke Bro? The Tiki Guy is sponsored by Smoke Bro. You know, all these shows, you can't have a show without a sponsor. So, Smoke Bro is the way to go. Let me tell you a little bit about it. If you're smoking your cigar out there playing golf and you're ready to take your shot, so what do you do with this bad boy that's all lit up, going good, and you got to do something with it so you can take your club and take that shot. So let's take a look at this cool little creation here. It's called the Smoke Bro. And originally it was a clip. See, my son worked at golf country clubs all through high school and college. And he said, Dad, there's more cigar holders left on golf carts than any other item. Because he was the cart guy, and he would have to clean those things up. So I said, well, I'm going to make one that does several things differently. It doesn't have a clamp, so it's not going to damage the cigar. And you don't need two hands, like one hand to open the clamp and the other one to take it out. So you just put it in and see, and it clips right on your bag or on the windshield. It can clip on anything. And there it is. One hand, do your business, set it down, take your shot, come back, put your club up, and take it out. So now it got a little bit more. Now, as cart designs changed, we had to accommodate that. So these guys were genius when they did this because they made it magnetic. Look at this. You pop it off, and you put it on anything steel. And most of the roof supports on the golf carts are steel. Well, you just clip it right. You don't even need a clip. There you go. You just stick it on there. Now, what if you can't put it on the windshield? You can't put it on the cup holder. You don't want to put it on your bag. So we've got the suction. You put it on the suction thing, lick it, and stick it. There it is. And you can put it on boats. Anything, glass, fiberglass, anything. And you got a place to put your stogie when you don't want to hold your stogie. Okay, anyway, thanks to Smoke Bro, our sponsor. Appreciate that, guys. Keep that creativity coming. All right, let's talk about retirement a little bit here and life in general. So retirement is a job you like and won't call work. Okay, that's one definition. There, a lot of people say, retirement. I don't ever want to retire. Like, yeah, but you want choice. You want choices in your life. So wake up in the morning and go, what do I want to do today? That's a strange thing to get used to. And I can't believe the question people ask. A lot of people go, well, how's that retirement going? Do you like it? You bored yet? And like, are you kidding me? It's like winning the lottery. Are you going to get bored with that? and like, it's so great because you don't have to. There are some challenges because you're so programmed to have a schedule. And like, got to be at a certain place at a certain time. And work even controls, the night before work because you go to bed at a certain time because you got to get up at a certain time because you got to go to work. Well, if you don't have to do that, you don't really need to go to bed until you get tired. That's something to get used to. So. And you can do this a lot more. You don't have to worry about it. So here's to being retired. I'd highly recommend it. If you have the choice, working all the time or being retired, do what you want, I like tiki time. So this works for me. Like work was like it was a means to an end. I enjoyed work. And, you do what you got to do. But there was always this in the back of the mind of, I'm doing this. If work is so great, why do they have to pay you to do it? You ever thought about that? If they quit paying you, are you going to keep going in? Oh, I just love it so much. I'm going to do it. It's not about the money. Like, nah, you're probably going to, Okay, I don't think I'll be there anymore. So, yeah, but I agree. I mean, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. But I love being retired, so I'll never work a day in my life. Unless I want to do another show, another podcast, Tiki Guy podcast. Yes, that's work. That's work for me now, and it's rough. It's rough, but somebody's got to do it. So since I'm the Tiki Guy, I will be that guy. So let's talk about some other subjects. What makes for a long marriage? Well, I heard an old guy tell me one time, and I was a young buck, and he was an old dude. He'd been married about, I don't know, like 70 years, and he says, "Son," he goes, you get these little women, these hot women, and they look good, and you got all this love stuff going on, and he says, they get old. You get old. So when that's gone, you gotta like them. So love is great, and you gotta have that. But you gotta like them too. You ever had people, friends that say, "Oh, I just love her to death, but God, I can't stand to be around her. She just ticks me off." Like, okay, so you love her, but you don't like her. So that's not good. You gotta like them. They gotta be your best friend. You gotta want to hang out with them. So that stuck with me. That guy told me that. That was pretty cool. So I remembered that, and so when I found my love, I even used that in the marriage vows. I said, I want to find someone I love and like, because that's important. So the separate bathrooms and all that stuff, you hear these stories about that. It's not a big deal, I mean, you get over that stuff, and it's kind of like, hey, bodily functions are bodily functions. Hey, that's your mate. Yeah, I'll be able to share everything with them. They don't need to hang out in there, if it's a rough day, But not a requirement. And it's if you like somebody, you want to do things for them. You want to do like little, like even if it's not a special occasion, you see something that reminds you of them, go, I'm gonna get her that. That's cool stuff. I think that's the kind of stuff that makes you, have a good marriage. You just gotta like them, and when you like them, you'll do things that they like, that they like. And, if they keep you a stocked bar, that's a pretty nice thing too. They encourage, like they'll go, "Oh, you haven't used this shaker in a while. This is a really good shaker. Man, it keeps things cold. Woo, here, you ought to use this. Here, make you one. I made you one. Here, just drink this." And I'm like, that's a good woman. That keeps the Tiki Guy happy. So, let me tell you, I hang out with, all my career, I hung out with engineers, and engineers are weird dudes, because, we kind of create the world. Like, most people don't realize where things come from. They use them. They just see a product and they go, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool." They don't realize that somebody had to, it had to be a problem for somebody. And somebody decided to solve the problem. And he might have made it for himself, and then somebody saw it and said, "Hey, that's pretty cool. You ought to make that for, you ought to sell those." That's the way a lot of neat products came about. But, and they're usually successful because there was a need for it. At least the guy that invented it thought there was a need for it, or he wouldn't have invented it. And that's, people are always talking about, "Oh, I want to invent something. I want to invent something." And no, you don't. You want to solve a problem. If you're looking for something to invent, it's never going to happen. But if you see problems that need a solution, create a solution. It'll turn into a product. Like, it's a great example. Why do you buy a 1-inch drill bit? Do you really want a 1-inch drill bit in your shop? No, you want a 1-inch hole, and it solves your problem. That will give you the 1-inch hole that you want. The bit is just the thing that solved the problem. That's a good one. That stuck with me. I heard that thing about 30, 40 years ago. I'm like, that's pretty powerful. So, let's see. Tiki wisdom. When you build a tiki bar, I'll tell you the hardest thing, if you've never built one, is thinking about how high does the roof structure need to be, because you don't think about the thatch that hangs over. That hangs over a good distance, and you got to allow for that. So the roof on a tiki, if you're planning on building a tiki bar, either buy the plans or go measure one that's already built and build it like that, because you're not going to think about it. If you think, build the roof like this, and then you got this thatch hanging over, it's like everybody's got to bend down to come up under the thing. That's not cool. Not cool. So that's one challenge with a tiki. The other one is, what kind of wood do you use? I like bamboo. Bamboo is totally tiki. So a lot of them don't build the main structure out of bamboo. They'll build it out of like cypress. They strip the bark off, and that's all right. I mean, that's rustic. You want it to be rustic. You don't want it to be like finished out wood. That's lame, man. Like, you're in a jungle, man. Tiki bars were built out of necessity with what was there in the woods. They cut a tree down and, do what they had to do to give them some, like coverage out of the rain and the weather and stuff. That's where it all came. And they had the palm fronds, so that's, people go, how does that thing seal water? Don't you get wet in there if it's raining? Say, no, here's what happens. You got a leaf, and before that leaf, you get to the end of that leaf, you got another leaf. See? And then before the water gets to that one, you got another leaf. So they're always going one leaf to another until the last one, the water rolls off. So no, they're amazingly waterproof. That is, until you get a palm leaf from a surrounding palm tree that goes and rubs a hole in it. Because once those palm fronds dry, they're brittle. I mean, you got 48 hours max after they're cut to install them. So you can always tell a new tiki, it's green. I mean, it's very green or slightly turning brown, but they just roof that thing. But it won't be for long. It'll be brown, and that's fine. It's just you don't want things touching it, rubbing on it, because it'll wear a hole in it real quick. And the other hard part is, here we didn't have to deal with that. But on the tiki that comes up in the middle, that's the hard part, is getting it to where no rain comes down, where everything comes together. And some guys will build tikis, they'll build another little house over it, So right where they all come together, they have another one on top, and that's a pretty cool way to do it. So it's tiki technology. Yeah, that's what you call it. Tiki Guy, tiki wisdom. The first tiki I ever built, I did it all. I mean, I did everything but cut the palm fronds. I had those delivered, but they were all green, and I put them on. I did everything. And it was to get the experience, because I knew I was going to be the tiki guy. I just felt it in my blood. I was a beach bum, I guess, in another life. I don't know, but I just like it. I like the beach. I like being under the thatch. Like it says in the song, feet in the sand, head in the thatch. Baby, that's tiki. So, anyway, that first one I built, yeah, I didn't want to I never wanted to thatch another one, I'll tell you that. But that first one was good, and I learned a lot. I learned that somebody else needs to do that. That's all they do is build tiki bars and put thatch on because they are so good at it. I mean, they've got a system. Man, they'll have guys that go out in the jungle and they cut those things. And they bring them, and they got one guy on the roof. And this is if one's already built, that's even worse because they got to take the old palm leaves off. That's really a problem because you got one guy up there pulling them off and throwing them on the ground. There's another guy down there picking all that stuff up and putting it in the garbage or in a flatbed. And then you got another person that's handing up the green leaves to put, the new leaves on there. So it's quite a system. And the guys that are good at it, I mean, a small tiki, say one that the roof is 16 feet in diameter, that thing will take about 700 to 1,000 big palm leaves to do. And it'll take these guys that do it all the time, it'll take them a full day to do it. And they're good at it. So you can imagine, do it yourself. You're gonna spend a week working on that thing. But it's a good experience, So anyway, the tiki life is great. But once you build it, like I like building things that not just the fun of building it, but once you've built it, you get to use it. So it's like half the fun is creating it, and the other half is using it for however, forever. And you have parties, people love it, like it's such a different thing because, most houses don't have a tiki bar. Even if they do, they're out way out from the house, away from it because it's a total change of architecture and interior design because you're going from house that's nice, white drywall and all the typical construction, and then you go out a little ways. Now you got wicker furniture, wood, thatch, the cool lights and tiki torches, and it's totally different. But you can feel your attitude when you walk out there and you go in. You're like, wow, you just relax, because if you go out someplace that's really nice, you go in someone's home and it's like everything is so perfect. You're worried about, where can I set this drink? Oh, what should I take my shoes off? Should I, is it okay if I eat in here? There's everything, but you never have that kind of thought in a tiki bar. It's like, it's a tiki bar, man. It's like barefooted, Hey, it's like it says in the song, no shoes, no service. It says, no shoes, no service, no problem. That's the way a tiki should be. Yeah. What do you think, Mikey? Tiki, way to go? That's right. So that is when you do have to have a little extra cash if you're going to build a tiki bar. I mean, it's not outrageously expensive, but you got to have some expendable income, and you're going to have to re-roof it about every 6 to 8 years, depending on what kind of storms you get. You don't lose a lot of the thatch in a storm, believe it or not. You just They will wear out, though. You just get little holes in different places, and they'll wear. But I'll tell you, what was I going to say about that? Oh, yeah, the money part. Imagine a guy, the homeless dude, And, what would you say to a homeless dude that walked up, seemed like a nice guy, walks up and goes, man, I wish I could have one of those. You'd have to look at him and just say, that's what money do. So, that's the title of our next song. Yep, that's what money do. And you're going to love the video with it because it'll be just that. A guy walking up that you can tell he doesn't have much and he thinks he can't have much for some reason. Maybe his people in his life told him that you're never going to be any good. You're never going to have anything like that. Dream on. And he just believed it. And now he thinks, I can't have that. But that's a thought. And you can change that thought. That's what money do. See, now if all of a sudden this guy somehow comes across a lot of money or changes his attitude about himself and gets on the ball and makes a lot of money, you can have all that stuff. That's what money do. So the video it'll be kind of like that. The guy walks up and he doesn't have much and all of a sudden, and it'll be like fantastic, like a yacht or some really nice place. And he'll look at the camera and he'll go, that's what money do. I have to give my late son credit for that. Yep, he is the one that made that statement. Yep, and he's no longer with us, but he is with us every day in our minds. So, excuse me for a moment. I got to be refreshed. That's the way the Tiki Guy rolls. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast. I like to leave you with, ideas that may stimulate some thoughts. I think the most valuable thing you can do to a person is make them think. Because if you just answer their question, someone asks you a question and you just go, there's the answer. What does it do to them? Okay, they got the answer, but they're no longer thinking. And it shuts down any creativity. But if you answer their question with a question, they got to think. And they'll figure out things. And they'll benefit from the thoughts and the road that it puts them on, the path to figure out something. And there's no shortage of needing to figure out things in this life. I mean, every day you get up, you got to figure out something. So there is this thing called design to cost. So when you're working for a company, they got an idea what this thing should sell for. And so when you're starting to get all crazy and creative, then they pull you in pretty quick and go, whoa. Nah, that's not going to happen. That's a cool factor. We got to make this thing work, and we got to sell it for this price. So, it's kind of hard, man. If you're a creative engineer, you want to do the craziest things. The only place I've ever heard of that being like that is probably SpaceX. I mean, they got some great stories, man. They are just... no one ever pulls their reins in. They're just like, we got to do this in this amount of time, and they go crazy with, and they're doing it. It's amazing the stuff they're doing. God, it must be the greatest. That would be the place to work. If you're an engineer now, you don't work for them, man, you better work for one of their suppliers or something, because that would be fun engineering right there. That'd be almost as cool as a smoke bro. Nah, that's big stuff, So let me put in my 2 cents worth. It's always puzzled me because, you put in your 2 cents worth, but you get a penny for your thoughts. So who kept that other penny? Where'd that go? Somebody's getting rich off our thoughts, That's always bugged me. So Last call. Subscribe, stay thirsty, and remember, nobody ever regretted the second cigar. Tiki Guy out.